the American people because they are doing things that nobody thought they would do. What they're doing is incredible. And we're making a lot of progress, and we'll see you folks tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to post that time there, and then we'll end it before I get out of here. So, okay, so let's go back to this screen right here. All right, so I have some definite things I'd like to cover or touch base on when it comes to everything we just heard. What's this? Keep this out of the way. No, dismiss that. Okay. So, where to start? Wow. Well, let's just jump in here on some of the notes I was taking because I think they covered a bunch of different things. Okay. This is crazy times we're in, guys. And the nice part about these press conferences is they always make us feel better, right? Because everyone's calm and everyone's like, take a deep breath. We need to just relax, which I think there's a lot to be said about that we do need to relax. I know I can get a little animated and I can get a little conspiratorial, or I can go off the deep end on some stuff, but I think it's not necessarily the deep end. I think it's just me starting to learn that I want to believe the president when he says that we're going to soar back, the economy is going to come back. But we are at Great Depression level, headed towards or really close to Great Depression levels. We're definitely this is going to cause a recession. For how long? I don't know. I don't know how long. That maybe it's the quickest recession recovery of all times. But this is undoubtedly going to cause a recession, and I think that's putting it lightly. I'm trying to fall up on the positive side of this. Excuse me. Sorry for that crunchy cough. It's gross, but clearing everything out. I feel fine, by the way. Still sound terrible. Feel fine. Our stock market, I don't know where we're at right now. I had it up earlier. Let me pull this up right now after the speech. So the Dow is down 126 points. The NASDAQ's now down 35 points. And the S&P is down 33 points. So not great news. Now, in a normal day, that would be like horrible. Like, oh my God, everything's down by X amount of points. This is actually walk in the park for us when we were talking. We've seen in the last several days, we've seen, it fall as far as, 3,000 points. I mean, it's been sort of ridiculous how far we've seen some of this stuff fall. You need to be prepared, right? We're rolling out, and we could argue. I know Doug Ducote wants to calm the fear. Of course, National Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers and whatnot, they get called out for national emergencies. We are definitely all right. Hopefully, this doesn't keep happening because now, right when I want to get to my thoughts, it's gonna start. Oh, did it already kick me off? So it took me out of my clip that I wanted to make, my post clip. That's great. That's really great. Create highlight. Yeah, okay, no, that's still there. Okay, good. So at any rate, it's I don't even know where I was until when that disconnected. I hope this doesn't keep happening, but our government's there to make us feel warm and fuzzy and that everything is going to be okay, and that's their job. They should do that. I'm not really necessarily against that. Make sure I'm not distorting either, but because I don't want this to be distorting, I'm going to pull down a little bit. But here's the thing that he said. He started off by saying we're staying in a war footing for our safety. So we are staying in this war footing. We have the invisible enemy. We are going to see, so I was saying about martial law, we're going to see martial law or we're going to see the National Guard roll out. They're going to be here to help administer tests, help build hospitals, help so on and so forth, right? And help kind of control, crowd control, whatnot. That's going to devolve when we break into the looting, when we break into people panicking, right? When they can't just go wherever they want to. And in places like New York where they're just stacked on top of one another, the stir craziness is going to happen. They're not going to be kumbaya like they are in Italy when they're stuck in their apartments for, a week or 2 weeks at a time. That's not going to go all kumbaya. It's going to devolve rapidly and hardcore. And so there's fear there. Same thing with LA. Then you have the homeless crisis, right? And you have these people that are, there was trending on Twitter that, when can we start looting? When does the looting start? You have this mindset of these kids that just are right for the here and now, don't give a crap about anything else. You see that with the way they go out to the spring break. They're not caring about this. They're saying it's no worse than the flu and all this other stuff. We don't know exactly how bad it is, and it isn't. Now, the reaction that we're having to this makes me think that, it's either they are completely pulling one over on our eyes to completely shut everything, to rip everything away from us when it comes to our constitutional rights and get us in a mindset and prepped for this state of a nanny state, right? And then where we can't meet. First Amendment, we can't, public meetings and all this other stuff speak in our mind, where they have to now, they've been setting this up, controlling the internet, right, where they control what we think or control what we say, where they're going to put stopgaps in place for this kind of stuff. That's definitely also most likely going to happen. But the recovery of this is not, I think he's been very optimistic, and I want to believe him. And I'm not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, right? And I don't even fully understand that at those levels. So is it possible? Maybe in a happy world, right? Just this happy make-believe world we live in at times, it's possible, I guess. And I want to believe that, but I don't see that happening. I see this turning into a very many months prolonged situation of trying to rebuild the economy after this and trying to rebuild confidence in our markets after this. Now, the stock market needed a correction. The 28,000, 29,000, that was totally inflated. So it was a joke of an economy, or a joke of a stock market anyways. It was not a true stock market. It was way overinflated. So this is a correction to it. Maybe now that we're down around the 19,000, 20,000 mark, we won't see as many drastic drops, because that's maybe more realistically where the whole thing should be in the first place. But there's a lot of things, and I don't want to bounce too much around, that go to the timing of this, right? With all the CEOs stepping down and all these other things, we are going to go into a great recession for a little while. Now, like I said, I don't know how quick that recovers or if it does. I will always tell you, regardless of how bad the virus is, which in the beginning I was on the whole thing, this is nothing more than the flu. What are they doing? This is all a political stunt to take down the president. I don't necessarily believe it's just a political stunt anymore, because you can't take down the whole world. That's an upside to it. That's an upside to it for the deep state, which he joked about, which worries me. Why are you joking about that if it's such a serious thing? Why are you joking and smiling at Pompeo when you say that? That makes me question some stuff, and I don't know exactly how to word or I got to collect my thoughts on that before I air out any opinions on that, but that was troublesome. But the media disinformation, Pompeo talked about that. He talked about media disinformation. That is all set up. Every time you hear the media disinformation, there's too much disinformation out there. There's too many people are crashing these systems and crashing those systems because they're spending too much time online. That's all a setup. That's all a setup in my mind to bring it to the point where they are going to then pull the plug on certain things, especially if this continues to get bad and it continues to escalate, which it's going to. They're just saying a 2-week lockdown, basically, of stopping work for 2 weeks. I think that's going to turn into much longer than 2 weeks. We don't have our kids going back to school or anything until the end of April now, right? This is going to, when people start to realize, they have to slowly roll this out. They just can't come out and boom and throw it on us. They have to roll it out slowly to manage the panic. You have to manage the panic. You have to tell people, hey, we're going to pay for your mortgage and your insurance or your rent, and we're not going to shut your power or electricity off. You have to tell them that. And then a few days later, you tell them, hey, by the way, you're going to see the martial law rolling out. They're here to deliver food. They're here to deliver healthcare supplies. They're here to whatever. And they're not really going to get involved. There's still going to be local involvement or local enforcement by the police department, who's going to actually take care of, any kind of law breaking or whatnot. They're not going to do any of that. They're just here to help, right? Then you hear stuff that speaking of law enforcement, the law enforcement says, oh, we're not going to arrest people anymore. we're going to write them a ticket if you're caught burglaring or, burglarizing. So all of a sudden, these low life, these low life Tide Pod eaters that are just looking for a reason to loot, looking for a reason to be a vandal, looking for a reason to riot. All of a sudden now they're like, oh, cops aren't really going to do much for burglary and small things like this. They got bigger fish to fry about, serious violent attacks and for, things like that. So police departments throughout the country are rolling out things of like, we're going to write you a ticket. They did it here, saying if it's a non-emergency or it's a non-violent kind of a crime, send us in, write a report. We'll get to it when we can. We're not worrying about that. Now you add on top of that they're releasing low-level criminals out of the prisons for the threat of the virus spreading to them. So now you have more criminals back on the street. Now you have no food going into their mouths, and you have people in lockdown. And these low-life pieces of crap are going to take that opportunity when they get stir crazy to go out and cause problems. Then that is the dominoes and the wildfire that has a fan blowing on it that starts to spread with great breakdown. And then when the great breakdown starts to happen in the society and the National Guard and the troops are on the streets, that's when they start cracking down. And now you're not just having stay in your home, except for going to the grocery store and coming back, and more of a light, friendly, hey, it's shelter in place, it's lockdown. Now when this looting and stuff breaks out, you have a hardcore shutdown, hard curfew, you need to be in your house, papers please. That's how this rolls out, right? That's the potential of this rolling out. Now, am I 120% sure that that's how the rollout's going to happen, or that's how bad it's going to devolve to? No. I'm not, and that is me best case scenario, right? We've never seen this, so maybe I'm jumping to the extreme. Do I think that is what's going to happen? I personally think that is how bad it's going to get. I personally think we're going to see a complete breakdown, and I want to be wrong, and I want you guys to make fun of me later and say you were wrong. But obviously, I have right to be wrong on this in the sense that we've never been in the situation we are right now with this kind of panic and this kind of shutdown. So do I see that as a potential? I absolutely see that kind of stuff happening as a potential. And I am prepared for it. So I'm not as worried about this personally myself because I'm ready to hunker in place for a while. If you guys aren't, if there's anybody still out there thinking, oh, it's all going to be okay, everyone just take a deep breath. Everything's going to just play out here in a couple weeks. We're going to be back up. Everything's going to be getting back to normal. And we're going to be fine. If that's you, I would suggest you go and you get some supplies if you still can, right? Now they're starting to lock down and tell you what you can and you can't get already. Now they're already putting stipulations on you at the grocery store of how much stuff you can and you can't buy, right? And don't buy toilet paper for the love of the sweet Jesus in heaven, man. Don't just buy toilet paper. You can buy some, but that is not your main concern. I've done this, so I'm not as concerned about some of that stuff right now. But you need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of that. Are staying open, no longer sell out. Will come back. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up some of these too. I want to go through these points. I don't want to lecture too much because, anyways. So I want to just go through these points and then get to some questions too. It says they all have to praise. That's kind of Trump scripted. And I get why they do it. Man, every one of these things, they praise Trump so much. Everyone steps up. President Trump has done such a good job and without his leadership, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and I get why they're doing that because he's had such a hard time in the media. He's really pushing that, right? Because like I said, I get it. It makes sense. I understand why he's doing it. But it's funny how they're all very much, ask us, and men get it worse than women. Men get it worse than women. That was another thing that the doctor said, that they were showing that men get it worse than women. I think that points to another bioweapon, guys. I do absolutely believe this is a bioweapon, and that's what makes me think don't be unconcerned with it, right? Unless it was a bioweapon, which there's a theory out there that it escaped before it was really ready. Regardless, this is not a naturally occurring virus. This is a bioweapon, so think about that. A bioweapon is released on people, and it was used. Whoever knows, did China do it? Did we do it? Did some other foreign actor do it? I don't know all of that yet. Yes, I've had my theories. I'm starting to lean more back towards the China one. But regardless of that, this is definitely not a normal occurring flu, right? This was a bioweapon. So and it attacks women more than men. That's one of the things I've heard too, is that you want to make the men sicker, right? Those who can work. Sorry, sexist. Not trying to be sexist, but it's a sex. You want to affect those who can work. You want to affect those who can defend your country, right? That's a great way to weaken your nation, is to take out your men. Sorry for all you feminists out there that's going to butt hurt you, but it's the fact of the matter, right? We need both men and women, but let's be real here. Let's be real. There's no time for political correctness. Men really do help this country go and make this country run. So, as do women, but on the actual working of, physical and protection and, building stuff, men do that more than women. So, it affecting men, I find, as an interesting point, right? Side note. Como locked it down in New York. So we talked a little bit about this. Como locked it down. There's Twitter hashtags trending that are talking about when's the looting going to begin. Local authorities, you're going to listen to them. So when they kept asking them about, are you going to do a national lockdown? The way this martial law works, and Doug covered this really clearly, is that the local authorities, the state authorities, get to decide when they call up and when they activate their National Guard. So the local authorities have more of the call right now, and the federal government is just kind of letting them be, or letting them make the calls. But ultimately, they could push for we could federally have the feds come in and the federal government take control over everything if we get into a higher state of emergency, if we get into a farther, a more drastic state of emergency. Not that there's different levels, but to where things completely to divulge, you'll have the federal government now stepping in too. I find it interesting timing. We're pulling back troops, or we're not doing the Operation Defender in the Europe anymore. We canceled that because of the coronavirus. So all of our troops that were going to do that exercise over there, that got canceled. I wonder where are they coming back here? Are they just staying there and just not doing the exercise? Or are we pulling them back? Are we pulling them back and positioning them here in America because of the chaos that could ensue? Here's the other chaos that could ensue, other than just the coronavirus. As we're in the state of emergency and things are going to hell in a handbasket, we are in an opportune position for some sort of a foreign attack. And as nice as the things President Trump was saying about China and that he gets along with the guy and all this other good stuff, China is taking a war tone with us. So is Iran. So is Russia. They're all taking this more so, I would say, China and Iran are taking a very war aspect with us. We're not cozy, buddy. I know Trump was saying that, President Trump was saying that, but that isn't the fact of the matter. If you really do the research right now on it and you look into it, there's some more heat there between us than we'd like to imagine and we'd like to talk about. The national lockdown. So one of the comments was the flu kills more people, right? Well, here's the thing, that as you do the research, the R naught factor, which is how contagious it is, and Fauci touched on this, is I've heard 3 to 10 times worse. So it's not, I think that was the low estimate at the 3 times. I've heard it's as high as 10 times more contagious through some different scientists that have looked at this. The residual effects is also worse. You can recover. They say, hey, many people recover. Many people catch it. If this many people catch it, I apologize how many was blocked out there. I was talking about the reconnection stuff, or I was talking about the reinfection stuff, not the reconnection stuff. So we don't know exactly if you can re-catch it. Many people said you can re-catch it. So if you can re-catch it, and we already have this kind of a strain on round number 1, but round number 1 could lead to round number 2 or round number 3 with those same people. And when you catch it and you get better, your lungs get more degraded, and then you can catch it again, and then you can also respread it again. That's why I think these are the things they're not telling us about the disease, because it would cause mass fear and panic, right? So yeah, it's right now we're like, it's so low numbers. Why are we freaking out? I think it's because they're not telling us what really is about this disease or this virus, how really this virus affects you. I think they don't want necessarily to let us know that because of the panic that would ensue. And also I think that there could be something else in the works that they know is going to happen or about to happen. And they're trying to get, because they know they also don't want to tell us that, like he was talking about Iran, they basically are saying that Iran did this, right? I mean, that's all later on in the notes there. He was like, they all but said that. So now we're going to attack and retaliate on Iran in the midst of all of this. In the midst of this weakened state that we're in as a country, we're going to now flex our muscles for a few missiles that were shot at a base in Iraq, where we don't even need to be there anymore, and we shouldn't be there, and we've been asked to leave by Iraq, and we still are keeping our troops there. And now these, whether or not they're Iranian-backed, which we don't know, and they're not going to reveal that, this could very easily be a setup and a false flag, also blaming it on Iran. Not to say Iran is good or that they wouldn't do this, but it could be. Let's be realistic here. So, we're going to now respond to Iran and put ourselves in a position where we could be in a hot war with another country when we're dealing with this at home domestically. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I can't believe or understand why we would do that. If there's not a drastic attack upon us or a drastic imminent threat where we have to use military force against another nation, why would we consider that right now? Why would we consider that with everything going on? Because if that happens and we do push back on another nation and flex our muscles, you don't think that they're going to think this is an opportune time for them to maybe take a run at us too, with everything going on, and how they wouldn't have to shoot a missile at us. They could, and I've been calling this, and I hope I'm wrong, hit us with a cyber attack, cause a blackout on the East Coast. Can you imagine if a blackout happened in New York City right now, or in California and LA, with everything going on right now? Can you imagine the chaos that would ensue? Okay? And then that chaos, it's a domino that goes down and down. We lose more liberties because they're going to crack down on us like hardcore. So it's a win-win for the deep state. Also, we are put into a perpetual state of war then, right? Domestically, and we could possibly be thrown into a world war. I know this is fear. People are going to say you're fear-mongering. No, this is all very real that could happen. And we're in a position now where not many other shoes have to drop for that to happen, or they could drop very quickly and that could all happen. I'm being very realistic when I say that, okay? I'm being very, very realistic when I say that. Not trying to scare you, but just saying be prepared that this kind of terrible stuff could happen, right? So it doesn't catch you off guard and you're like, wait a minute, I thought Trump was just going to arrest all the bad guys and everything was going to go back to normal. No, you can't be living in that fantasy world right now. If that happens, I will be so happy that I am an idiot and you were right. But you can't. You gotta plan. Which mistake do you want to make? Which mistake do you want to make? So, the chlorine malaria drug. I found that kind of interesting. How they tried to correct it and show at the very end there, Trump and Fauci, that they were on the same page, basically saying the same thing. They weren't saying the same thing in the beginning. Trump was like, I like the idea, and Fauci's like, whoa. Which makes me wonder, is it because we don't want to give too much hope to people right now? They don't have any problem spreading the fear or spreading this complete breakdown of everything around us and pulling literally everything down over a possible, which they're not telling us, but just as we can see, over a possible little fear of a virus that could, kill this many people, but really people get over it. This is what we're being told, although I think it's worse than that. They don't have problem stopping everything there, right? But why wouldn't we at least want to tell them the hope that, the hope that this disease or this drug could help? So that was interesting, the disagreements that they had on that point there, and that Trump was like, I have a great hope for it. Fauci going, I don't know. Now I know Fauci has some deep, I don't know about Fauci. I don't know, so I really like much of what he thinks, but then again, Trump's wanting to not spread panic right now too. So, Trump putting person in place. I am the worst case, prep, best case. Trump putting person in place. Oh, Trump putting his that was awesome when he put the chick in place, that reporter in place. Kind of what everything I've been saying here. I want to believe I'm preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. They said it has a very low incidence of death. Well, all of our numbers on that came out of all of those numbers were coming out of China, right? So we don't really know. We don't really understand what's been happening in China and what hasn't been happening in China. We don't really know that yet because we don't really they have all that locked down. Italy, many are dying, right? And the people that are, and many young are dying, and it's falling out of that set who they said is and isn't dying. So it's falling out of that. Also, on top of all of that, you have to add to the fact that you're left with, many people are saying you're left with lung damage after this, right? So it isn't just those who are recovering. You got to keep that in mind. It has a potential to weaken your immune system, is what I'm hearing, and leave you with lung damage. So even if you recover, you're not fully the same. So there's something to be considered about that. Again, that's why I don't think they're fully telling us everything that's going down. He says he finds them honorable. Corruption of selling stocks. Oh, the whole finds them honorable stuff. When he's talking about these pieces of crap that either had foreknowledge of what was going down, which is very suspicious, and then short sold their stocks, right? And made all this money, Republicans, Democrats, and all this. And now he's like, but I find these honorable people. I don't know what's going on, but I find them honorable people. That's like kind of where that bothered me that he said that. It's like, why can't you call a spade, man? And if there were these pieces of crap that did that, I would come out and say, well, we don't know the facts, but if this is what they did, this is disgraceful. This is disgraceful, and we are going to get to the bottom of it. But instead, he kind of downplays it and is like, well, I find him honorable. And he wanted to get off of that question and get away from it. And that bothers me a little bit, if I'm totally being honest. That's like, what? Wait a minute. I don't know how to take that or what to think about that. Was that Chinese? And then we had that Chinese spy in there, that Chinese chick talking about just totally going after him and saying, hey, you knew about this in January and you didn't do anything until February, and nobody knew how bad it was in January. We were starting, the conspiracy theorists did, I guess. But some of these other people were like, oh, probably will come and go. We don't want to overreact. And I think Trump took his actions as soon as he figured out, oh, this is bad. I think he's done as best as he could with that. But she was like, what, a commie spy? And it was funny. Somebody in the comments said, is she tested? Was that Tyler or was that Kenneth? I don't know. Bailouts not liking us being okay with it now. It's so funny that we were totally against bailouts when Obama was doing it, but now we're okay with it because Trump's doing it. I understand what we have to do. This is an unprecedented situation. So I would say that's the only difference to when I look at it. I look at it with a little bit of difference, is that we are in an unprecedented situation with this. But we got to be consistent. We hated it when Obama did it. We hated it when the Democrats bailed all these people out. Now we're going to bail them out. I do like the fact that he's trying to bail out the American people. The fact of the matter is, guys, what we don't understand is you just can't print trillions of dollars of money and give it to people and expect that it isn't going to absolutely devalue your currency, absolutely devalue and turn your cause incredible inflation and cause your money to lose value. You can't just print this money out of thin air and give it to people and expect that it doesn't have a long-lasting hurtful effect on the economy. Most people don't get that. They just think they're getting money in the bank. They're getting money, cash in their mailbox right now. Reconnecting. Yeah. It's going to cause a yeah, there we go. We're going live again. Anyways, the deep state stuff. When he said the deep state, he goes, he's got to get back to the State Department. I like to call it the deep State Department. Bam. That was another shot across the bow at old Pompeo and in the deep state. But he did it with a smile on his face. Doesn't that bother you? It bothers me a little bit, if I'm being honest. It bothers me because if the deep state is so scary and terrible as we all know and believe it is, why are we laughing about it? Right? Why are we laughing about it? Why are we joking about it? Why is the president laughing and joking about it with somebody who is very much, in my opinion, part of the deep state? I don't trust Mike Pompeo at all. I don't trust Pompeo. So why are we laughing and joking about it? That kind of bothered me, man. And then the disinformation when Pompeo was saying to China, Russia, and Iran, knock it off. Measures are in place to respond, but you need to knock it off. We don't appreciate you blaming this on the U.S., and the deep state wouldn't like that if they're if the deep state was involved with this, which you can't put it past them because the deep state was involved with 9/11, right? I'm not saying that is for sure who did all of this or who's doing all this, but you got to understand the deep state did 9/11. Why wouldn't they pull something like this off, which was their wet dreams? This is their their Marshall, this is their authoritarian, totalitarian wet dream happening right now. Iran is responsible, talking about the bombs that missiles have been shot, and we know it, he said. He goes, we know it, which is like, holy crap. So like I said earlier, so now we're going to be responding against Iran, right? We're going to respond against Iran right now in this time. We're going to risk a full-on hot war of them seeing us at our weaker moment and attack us. And some people are like, America, man, we don't matter. We're still strong. We can do it. Really? You really think that's a wise idea? Well, you shouldn't just be focusing on what we're doing right now and not trying to start a hot war with another country. They shot a few missiles at us in Iraq. Bad. Okay, that's bad. But you know what's also bad? Us still being in Iraq. Us still being over there in Afghanistan. Us still being in Syria in small numbers. Us still being around. That's bad. We shouldn't be there. We should be home. We should have our troops home. If our troops weren't in Iraq right now, we wouldn't get missiles shot at us. We wouldn't be flexing against Iran. We wouldn't need to. Let's worry about our own plot of land. I've always said this. I will always continue to say this. If you screw with us directly and it's undeniable you did that, unprovoked, right? We should turn you into a parking lot. But we've been pretty... Stay here. Stay here. I'm almost done. Stay here. Stay here. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. We gotta get with this here. I gotta wrap up these points before I lose everybody completely. So just stay here. Stay here. Live exercise. What about that? What about the comment Pompeo made? This is a live exercise. We got to get this right. What do you mean this is a live exercise? This is a live exercise we have to get right? Was that a slip up? That's a big deal. Pompeo said this now. Could people like, you're reading too much into it? Am I reading too much into it when when the martial law, when we have National Guard getting deployed, and we have Army Corps of Army Engineers is getting deployed throughout America, when we have country or states being locked down right now like crazy, when we have we're in a shelter in place, quarantining, when everything's going, stock market is crashing, and he says, we're in a live exercise right now. We got to get this right. Deep state, Mike Pompeo says that. He throws in exercise, and we have to. I'm reading too much into that. I'm being a tinfoil hat. You're being a cognitive dissonant idiot if you think there isn't very well possibly something to that. And again, invisible enemy. We're fighting the invisible enemy. That's kind of convenient to have an invisible enemy that we can keep fighting for a long time. It's always an invisible enemy that we're going to be fighting, right? Just like there was the terrorists that could be anywhere. We got to fight them. We've been fighting them for 20 years. Now we have an invisible enemy. We got to keep fighting. Production Act. I need to read more into that. I want to understand more about what this Production Act means and stuff. But at any rate, I am under I don't trust anything and I don't know, and it's constantly fluidly changing. So any opinion I throw up today could change tomorrow. And I won't be held accountable to it, but I'll admit it if I'm wrong. Who cares? I'm not going to try to get everything right before I say something. I'm going to just say what's on my mind. Ultimately, you do have to stay calm. You do have to keep your heart in a place of peace as much as possible, but preparation helps you be peaceful. Being prepped emotionally and mentally and physically helps you to be peaceful emotionally, mentally, and physically. If you just think everything's going to be okay and everything's going to be all right, and you don't have any preparations in place, then you are not going to be in a good, peaceful state of mind when the shit hits the fan and you have nothing to do about it or to have for your family. So prep physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then when that time comes, you'll have more peace in that moment. Yeah.